Welcome to the Worldbuilder's Anvil, I think. Season something, episode finale, hiatus. Season 4, episode 9, technically. The final world building trap. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world?
Do you need more? Does it make sense?
Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination.
This is the place where we will prime your mind.
Now, it's time to heat up the forge.
Break out the mithril ingots and hammer. Welcome
to the Worldbuilder's Anvil. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
Let's sup from the milk of Java and build. Welcome back. As always, I am Jeffrey W. Ingram. I'm a little sad and a little happy.
As always, up until now. I am Michael Miller.
He'll be returning to be called Mikey after this.
No, it's not happening.
Never call him that. That's rude.
Please don't do.
Yeah. So I had an inspiration. I've been going through Stephen King's On Writing, and I've been trying to figure out more and more how and where to do my writing, and realizing the simple fact I'm coming up, in the final world building trap. I myself have been trapped since 2015. One irony is I started the show with no intention of being a podcaster. It was the idea of a way to talk about writing. And I lost track of that. I've stopped writing, especially since my mom has gotten sick. I've just been so off a track creatively. It's been ridiculous. And I think people have noticed if you listen to the show, I don't think the quality has quite been where it's been at. My heart has not been in it. I enjoy the act of doing it tremendously. I have a lot of fun with Michael here. But I think it's I'm in the final trap of world building, which is I'm coming up with ways to use my hobbies to block myself from my passions, and it's time I stop.
I've said it before. This show has always been a joy to record with you. I did a show before this show, which is one of the big reasons that Jeff chose me as a co-host to come on this show. And as I've said it before, I'll say it again now, that I was very appreciative and very flattered that Jeff chose me, because we have multiple published authors in our friend circles. He easily could have asked a number of them, and a couple of them are very chatty and could generate content just as well as me. And the two that I'm thinking of are much better writers than I am. So I've always been very appreciative of that. So I love the podcasting format. So doing the show for me was a way to, at first, to keep doing a show, because I had stopped doing the show that I was doing prior. And I wouldn't have chosen world building as a subject for myself. That's not something I would have chosen, but I was like, you know what, that's, interesting. It's definitely something I could talk about, but I also felt that I was a little in over my head. So, Jeff and I talked it over, and it's like, well, then you have to be the representative of the people listening. Like, you can be the consummate avatar, our target market. So you play both sides of the fence, like you have written, you have, created things, but at the same time, you consume a lot of media and a lot of stories and reading and games and stuff, so that you can bring that perspective to the show, and it's always valid. So I've loved doing the show with you. But Jeff and I have both been feeling for a little while, we just had a conversation prior to starting the recording, that we both felt we've kind of run the course with this show, which isn't to say that we've covered every subject to the degree we would have wanted to, or to a degree that they can be covered. There's always more, but we feel that we're giving more to the show than we're getting to do for ourselves. So I don't want to say that we're being selfish by letting it go, but we are kind of choosing ourselves, because we've been doing it for so long, and we both have precious little extra time, and we both have projects that we want to create. I actually went to North Carolina over this past weekend, and my wife's like, why don't you work on your project on the flight? And I wrote about 10, 12 pages 10, 12 critical pages that I have been putting off for almost a year. Like I started a little thing probably more than a year ago, and I have not touched it since. So we're letting go of the show, but it's not without, trepidation and remorse and also joy. Like we loved doing this show for you guys. We've loved the interactions we've had with the listeners. You guys have,
so especially the early days in the Undercroft.
Yeah.
The early days of the Undercroft was probably, I think, the best time of the show. And then when Michael and I started getting overly busy, I think that really kind of spelled like truly the end when we stopped being engaged in the group like we were originally. And it was simply a fact of time for both of us, I think. So, but yeah, what a blast and what an honor. There's so many people I've got to talk to in the group, especially, who've actually been inspired, to at least take a shot at what they care about, and that was really always the purpose of the show. And in a way, it's kind of ironic when you kind of realize, after doing it, this is going on the 6th year, I guess. That, it's like, it's counterproductive for me being creative. It's like half the stuff I've talked about wanting to do on the show, working on video games and I have all of these ideas, and they've all basically been sitting still since I've done them, if I haven't actually talked about it on the show. And that's not the way it should be. And on top of the overhead of getting the show ready and published, there's brain power of used up because the show is always on your mind because there's always new episodes that have to be created. So it's always a weight above your shoulder, taking probably more away than the time you lose doing it, because it comes out like, oh wow, I haven't thought about this yet. Oh, I wanted to do this or that or this, and I've had a chance to do my show notes yet. To where like the last few weeks, it's been literally doing show notes. Hopefully 10 minutes. Hopefully Michael isn't on right away or has to go to the bathroom, so I have time to finish up the show notes.
I can't tell you how many times I've had guilty moments because I never did show notes. Jeff really was the one doing everything in the background. Like I pretty much just show up but the only thing that I get to say is for a long time there, I did the editing. Jeff did the editing early on. I took over at some point. And
you probably did a better job than me.
Well, I think I'm a little more picky about it than you are.
Yes. And that would be why I always left it very raw.
The thing we definitely want to, even though it is the last episode, we still want you to get something out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think about is the concept of a measured sacrifice for a measured gain. So before we started recording, Jeff and I had decided that even though because Jeff and I are really good friends, but we don't hang out. Like he lives in Florida now. I live in Connecticut. And even when he lived across the state from me, 45 minutes away, we didn't get together. Like the show was how he and I hung out. So but we've decided that we're going to, use the time that we previously used to record to check in on each other, to become each other's accountability partners for the projects that we want to get done. That way we still get to hang out and it gets us on our project. So the idea of sacrificing the show for the sake of working on projects and getting things done that we've both wanted to get done for a while. It also gets me thinking about I spend a lot of time playing video games throughout the week. I love playing Destiny, but I toil with the concept of, could I give Destiny up? And if I could, it would give me hours worth of time to gain working on my project. And maybe I will for a short time. I don't know, because it's such a hard thing for me to let go. It's one of my favorite things to relax and chill out doing. But that's something that you should apply to your life. If you find that you're not having enough time to do those things that you want to work on, your creative projects or a business project or something that you want to get off the ground or online or something, consider that you're probably going to have to let go of something just to open up that time in your schedule, or at the very least, learn how to do a time budget. We've talked about that on the show before. We've done a whole episode on it. Go out there and do a little investigating on a time budget. But the more organized you can be, and if you have to sacrifice something to gain something, and that sacrifice can be a temporary sacrifice. I know this is not my last podcast. It might be Jeff's. I don't know if Jeff will do a podcast again, but I know.
I most definitely probably will.
Yeah, I've had a second podcast in my head for years now. I've teased about it on this show. I've even recorded the first episode, but upon listening to it, I kind of like it. My wife didn't think the tone was quite right, and I haven't gotten to re-recording. So I'm gonna part of my project work will be, starting to build that. I have a program that I'm writing. Jeff, of course, you want to complete your book.
Yeah, I have so many drafts, it's ridiculous. It's like, I have several novels written. I have several more planned out I would like to work on. I've thought about doing a browser-based game and just like a generic JRPG kind of game.
Love JRPG.
Would love doing those. And what I might do is write a novel about the JRPG game, what really happened, and then, break it into scenes and use it for the game too. So, but it's like, for me, it's all about writing. And when I was going through On Write by Stephen King, which I suggest for anyone who has creative ambitions, somewhere in like around chapter 50-ish, maybe 52, he goes into the idea of, you have to make your time to write, and his suggestion is if you're starting off 1,000 words a day, he's like, being generous, he'll give you one day off a week. But, write at least 1,000 words a day, and he's like, and it might really vary for people. Some people are more prolific than others. But it's been a while since I've put any serious words down. I've not even done the last 2 NaNoWriMos. That should have been the indicator that I should have stopped the show at that point. But if there's something creative that you want to do, you should have a passion for it. And if you don't, you shouldn't make that your thing. You should go find something else to do. But if you want to sit down and you love doing it, then do it. And I'm just talking about doing it because I love doing it.
You don't do it? Everybody does it. I do it all the time. Just wouldn't be an episode if there wasn't a Mel Brooks, a Monty Python,
or Monty Python,
or what other go-to references we always see.
A lot of Firefly comes in.
A lot of Firefly, yeah.
Which is amazing. The number of quotes per episode versus the number of episodes.
Yeah, I hope that you find solace. One of Jeff's big goals for the show was that it be the impetus of a million new created fictional worlds. I really hope there's a lot out there that you guys are working on, or that if listening to this show got you to start, because it's all it takes is the start, right? Listening to podcasts is what got me starting my own podcast. Like, I was listening to a podcast, and all that podcast did in a bunch of episodes was encourage you to go do your own. Like, even if it's just a singular episode, just sitting down with your buddies and recording, and listening to that encouragement again and again and again and again finally got me to buy a microphone, learn the software, and do it. And the first show that I did, it wasn't great, but I think this show has just gotten better and better as the time has gone on. The big thing here I want you to get out of this is that you can do it. You can write. You can create your project. Yeah. I believe in you. Jeff believes in you. We would not have been recording this show for 6 years if we didn't believe in you. Because while we get something out of doing the show, and it was fun for us to do it, we really want you guys to have what you want out of your life and out of your creative endeavors. We want you to do it, and we believe you can. We know you could do it. So I really hope that listening to this show has helped you guys get motivated, go out there and get the skills. We've listed tons of resources throughout the years, and they're still there, right? You can go back to the show in the show notes. You can still go to the Undercroft.
Not going anywhere.
That's not going anywhere. And we're still available. If you want to reach out to us, we're available. You can go to the Undercroft, hit us up on Facebook. You can get a hold of Jeff on the website. I think I have an email address on the website, but I'm sure I've never checked it. So, like, you're better off getting me on Facebook if you wanted to reach out to me. But yeah, like, I I really hope that I would love to hear, tell you what, I would love to hear from even one person that said, yes, this show helped me. This show helped me get started or get interested. Even if we just helped you find some stuff that you didn't know was out there. Like that's always fun too. Like if we mentioned a show or a book or a resource and you were like, oh yeah, that really helped me. That was cool. So selfish.
If nothing else, we did inspire the librarian of the Undercroft to share 10 million wonderful posts inside of the Undercroft.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you very much for that as well. And some of the people who have helped us through the years inside of the Undercroft.
Is there anything else you want to cover in closing?
So I guess my big thing in closing is one of the stories I learned was Stephen King wrote Carrie in a trailer laundry room on top of a child's desk on his knees. Think about that for a second.
The concept
He lived
of
in a trailer.
humble beginnings.
He was in the laundry room with the door shut, writing words down on a kid's desk on his lap, because that's the only space he could find to do it. You know, a lot of these excuses we come up with, myself being, I'm the worst possible criminal here. Look how long this show's been going on. You know, I've added the picture behind me on the wall of what my cover was originally planned to be for my first book to help remind me to work on it. Whenever I'm in Zoom, I get to see this now. Let me go over this side.
Yeah,
so
I noticed it. I don't think it was up last time we were recording.
No,
Like,
I just
he's
got
got
it up yesterday.
He's got a glass framed picture of the artwork that was going to be on the cover of the book. I noticed it as soon as the video started. I was going to mention something about it.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of times we are in our own headspace and we cause our own issues. And that block us from getting to where we want to be in life. And if we're doing that, realize you can't blame your wife or your boss. You can't blame your living conditions.
It's us.
Ultimately, we don't want to do it enough. And there could be really valid reasons why. You know, if you live in extreme poverty, it's tough to come up with time, but it's not impossible. Once again, in a trailer, on top of a kid's desk, on his lap, writing Carrie. I mean, that takes it away from us. And there are people who've come from deeper poverty than him who've made impacts writing.
Look at Rowling.
Yeah. Single mom, you know, right there, you know. He at least had a wife, which is one of the things he credits for his success. Is he had someone to watch the kids, essentially not take crap from him or anyone else. So he didn't have to worry about that. But, you know, realize that, you know, you're going to be who you are, do who you are, and let life, you know, what was the quote you had? It's like, your life does not support art. Art supports your life.
I like that.
Just remember that.
The program that I am working on is a confidence, self-esteem program. It's more targeted towards men, but I think I may be modifying it so that any person of any gender could applicably use the knowledge and skills. Certainly a lot of it is applicable to anyone, but there's definitely things that I'm really talking about men, because that's my life experience. So if you want to reach out to me on Facebook and ask me how that's coming, and at some point I will have products about that, and I may have a second show that's all about that. The big things will be about motivation, about helping you help yourself, helping you get to where you want to be in life. And I'm sure you've seen that theme throughout this show. So if that interests you, go back, check out some of the motivational episodes we've talked about, and understand that the things that I'm going to be doing are going to be that exploded times 1,000 billion.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I hope you all get working on your projects now. Go ahead and tag me in the Undercroft if you want to chat. I'm always willing to talk about this stuff. It's definitely not from a lack of ideas of things to talk about that we're quitting the show. That's why I kept going on, was I just had more stuff to talk about. And I realized I'm so full of shit that I would never get anywhere else. So, you know, but this ultimately comes to the most important point. You know, realize what your goal is with your art. And if you get in your own way, even with the best of intentions, figure a way to correct it.
Jeff, thank you so much for having me. And thank
And
you
keep
guys
lying,
for
everyone.
listening.
Thank you so much for listening to the Worldbuilders Anvil.
We would love it if you would share the Worldbuilder's Anvil with 2 of your friends.
And so would they.
If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Take them to Stitcher or iTunes, or best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com.
That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the mithril's hot.